When I was younger, when I was a freshman in high school, I wanted to be a rapper when I grew up. I fell in love with rap music as soon as I heard it for the first time in third grade. I started rapping when I was in middle school and I was terrible, but come freshman year of high school, I showed improvement and I started thinking I'd like to possibly pursue it as a career. I was also interested in acting and wanted to be an actor as well. I always had the natural ability to act and knew I was a better actor than rapper, but I became so enthralled by rap music, I wanted to push that over acting, and I continued to get better and better the more I worked at it. But whether I was able to become a rapper or an actor, there was one goal I had in mind. I wanted to be rich. I wanted lots and lots of money. But I didn't want to be wealthy so I could buy multiple mansions and have a yacht and car collection. I wanted to be rich so I could give money to the poor. I grew up poor and was surrounded by others who were poor. And I wanted to have money so I could help pull them out of poverty. That was my mindset. I wanted to be rich, but not just to benefit myself, but to benefit others as well. By my junior year in high school, I was getting to be pretty good at rapping, and I had recently become a Christian and was driven by faith. I had faith in God, and I used that faith to fuel my pursuit of getting a record deal. As a young, dumb, and naive kid, I started sharing my dreams with people. I would tell everyone, I'm going to be a rapper. I have faith in God. I'm going to make it in the music industry. And there were a few who supported and encouraged me, and then there were many who discouraged me and told me I needed to be more realistic. And then there were those who scoffed and told me I was crazy and mocked me and poked fun at me. And that doubt and that mockery created a shift in me. Now, I no longer wanted to become a rapper just to build wealth and help the poor. Now, I wanted to become a rapper to prove my doubters and critics wrong. It was no longer faith fueling me. It was anger fueling me. I now had a chip on my shoulder. The summer between my junior and senior year in high school, I met a guy in my city who had a small up-and-coming independent record label that produced rap and pop music. And he was looking for a new artist he could sign. Now, he was just getting his label underway, so didn't have money to pay me yet, but he had the means to get my demo produced, and that is what I needed. So after he told me he was a producer, I told him I was an aspiring rapper in need of a producer. And so I rapped for him, and he could see the potential in me, and so we started hanging out a lot and going over music, and he said he would produce me. So going into my senior year, I was much closer now to reaching my goal than I had been the previous school year. And that started building my pride and ego. I went from being this sweet and humble kid to this arrogant and cocky know-it-all. Ambition set its fangs in me, and the venom spread throughout my body. I was changing. The mission was no longer to help and serve people. The new mission was to tell the doubters, I told you so. I wanted nothing more than to come back to my city and rub it in every doubter's face that I did what you said I couldn't. And that became my ultimate motivation. So my producer got my photo shoot done and the artwork for the cover of the debut single done. Here's an image of the cover of what was set to be my first single. It's a second generation copy, so it's pretty blurry, and I have no access to the original artwork that was much clearer. My stage name was Dynamite G, as you can see, and the song was called What If. I was more like a pop rapper. I was like a rap version Justin Bieber. So after I got this artwork done, I started showing it off to people at school, and then some of them changed their tune. I remember one guy was like, I always knew you were going to make it. so as the school year went on, I was supposed to go to a local studio and record the first track, but my producer had some financial setbacks that delayed getting me into the studio. I was supposed to go multiple times throughout my senior year, but never was able to, and because I kept opening my big mouth and bragging to everyone I was about to record my demo, I had more doubters than ever every time my studio session got postponed. But it was okay if the demo was delayed because I knew my producer would eventually get me in, and when he did, we'd have a product that could land us a deal with a major label that would absorb his independent label. We both believed that. So finally, we get to the studio like 6 months after after I graduated high school, but hey, better late than never. So we recorded the first 2 tracks, and they turned out pretty well. And a couple months later, my producer meets a contact and gives him the demo. This guy loves the track and says this can hit right now, but we have to strike now while the iron is hot because the trends change so often in the music industry. So he actually used to work in the music business but had actually retired, but he still had contacts. He says he was going to send our demo to his friend in New York, who is a guy who produced Bobby Brown in the late 80s, early 90s. And he says he thinks his friend will love my demo and will want to produce me. But he admitted if he sends this demo off to his friend, that he said he wants a slice of the pie for connecting us. And I told him, of course. So my producer is going to mail the demo off to this guy in New York the next day, and this is what we had been waiting for the last 2 years. We were both excited. This was it. If this guy likes our demo, all our dreams are about to come in fruition. I could taste success. And then my producer disappears. I don't hear from him for the next few days. I try to contact him to see if he has heard anything back from the guy in New York, but I can't get in touch with him. Then a week passes, and 2 weeks, and a month. Not a word from him. I finally get a hold of one of his relatives, and they say he moved out of town. They didn't know why or how to get in touch with him, but they just knew that he moved. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea what had happened, no explanation or anything. So a few months later, I decided to move down south to Miami, where I had a friend whose cousin said they had a major contact they could get me in touch with. So I moved down there eager to have a meeting with this contact, but after arriving and getting settled in, she informs me she can't get in touch with her friend and admits she was only an acquaintance of his rather than a close friend the way she had led on. I was quickly learning about the real world and that you can't trust much of anything people say because they are constantly exaggerating and blurring the truth to present a certain image they want to portray, mostly because people are insecure. So I stayed in Miami for a while longer, and one night I go to church and they talked about forgiveness, and we prayed, and I just thought about so many people I was upset with, starting with my father, who left me before I was even born and who has never interacted with me a single time in my entire life. And then thinking about how my producer skipped out on me the way he did, and my classmates who mocked me, and in a moment, I forgave all of them. My father, my producer, and all of my snickering classmates, and a heavy weight was lifted. The power of forgiveness overtook me, and I realized I had nothing to prove to my classmates or to anyone else. I started to see my producer more like a human being in need of God, more so than a music producer who had wronged me. I just let it go, because I realized his soul is more important than our careers. Looking back now and knowing more about how evil the entertainment industry is, I believe God intervened and stopped that deal from going through, probably to save me from going down a really bad road. I actually lost my motivation for rap, or at least for a while. I later started doing Christian rap, but that's a story for another day. The point of this story is that we need to be careful about the things we're pursuing and our motives behind why we're pursuing the goals we are. What is it exactly that we're hoping to achieve, and why do we want to achieve those things? I realize now that my motives were always wrong, even from the beginning when I wanted to get rich to help the poor. It wasn't my job to financially support the poor. Of course, it's always good to give to those in need when you can, but what they need is steady income, and to find a way to make that happen. not someone dropping 50K in their lap that they likely would have blown on frivolous items anyway, and then go right back to being broke. As that saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. I was just an immature and naive kid that didn't understand the way the world worked. And then, as I said, a couple years later, I became motivated by pride, and that is like spiritual quicksand that many never climb out of. And with everything going on in the world right now is not the time for us to stay stuck in spiritual quicksand. God is always extending a branch to us so that we can climb out, and that branch is forgiveness. Forgive those who have hurt you, even if they were completely wrong. Now, I'm not saying you have to trust them or embrace them into your life, because some people are just toxic and it's wise to steer clear of them. But you do need to make sure you're not harboring bitterness and unforgiveness. You need to let go of the anger, let go of the resentment, and forgive. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and then realize you were the prisoner. Make sure whatever goals you're pursuing, you are pursuing from a pure heart and not a place of pride. Make sure your goals are not being led by your own flesh and desires. Any pursuit you have that is being fueled by anger is not a goal worth attaining. If you're not being fueled by the Holy Spirit, then it's a dead-end street and oftentimes can even lead to destruction. If you have a lofty goal and you need extra motivation from doubters and critics, and you need that chip on your shoulder to give you an edge, then that is not a goal that God wants you to pursue. God doesn't want us walking around with a chip on our shoulder. So take the chip off your shoulder and pursue the goals that are fueled by peace. Remember, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You just need to be in the peace of God. If God has called you to pursue a goal or a career, you won't need a chip on your shoulder to accomplish it. Looking back, I can now see God never called me to pursue the entertainment industry, not in rapping, acting, or screenwriting. Those pursuits only had a negative impact on my spiritual walk with Christ. Our faith should be on Christ and what Jesus did on the cross for us, not in our ability to accomplish a goal. Of course, we need to maintain faith in God in everything we do, but that faith needs to stay within the boundaries it was intended for and not to use in ways outside of God's will for our lives. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, is often taken way out of context. This verse is not intended to say you can accomplish a goal through Christ that strengthens you. The verse is saying you can endure hardships through Christ that strengthens you. A perfect analogy is NBA player Steph Curry, who is a Christian and uses Philippians 4:13 to motivate himself to win championships. I can win the NBA championship through Christ that strengthens me, is how he would apply that verse. But this verse was put into its proper context when he actually lost in the NBA Finals. Being so disappointed with losing in a championship, someone pointed out to him the real meaning of the verse is to endure hardships, translating the verse to, I can endure the agony of defeat through Christ that strengthens me. Steph didn't have a retort. He finally began to understand the true meaning of the verse. Faith isn't about accomplishing goals. It's about trusting Christ and what he did on the cross and being able to face hardships and disappointments with an attitude of gratitude for who God is, more so than measuring our life by its successes and failures. I'm not saying we can't pursue some goals. What I'm saying is not to put faith in those goals and not to put our faith in anything outside of Christ. When I was in high school, I was pursuing the wrong path because I misplaced my faith. My faith became more about me achieving my dreams and breaking into the music industry and less about what Jesus did on the cross. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Using verses like that out of context to chase my dreams, and I wasted years of my life. I could have actually been much more useful and productive for God. Okay, so here is a verse in Philippians 4:8, that I think is good in any context. And it reads, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." So that's about it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it if you think it may help someone. Consider subscribing for more videos like this. Feel free to leave a comment if you have a story of your own or any other thoughts. Thanks for watching. God bless.
My soul longs for you. I'm so alone. I need your love to get me through.